platforms, um, all that good stuff. So, um, I hope everybody's doing well. Hope everybody is having a great week. It's a hump day, almost there. So, um, thank you all for joining. Whether you're, live um, or you're viewing this as an archive or kind of going back. Um, Thank you for joining and thank you for being here. Um, so this episode is going to be a little bit of a different one than what we've done in the past, just because of the circumstances and stuff. Um, I guess what I'm going to do is I'm gonna try to make this a little bit more of a it's gonna be short, of course, not as long as our normal episodes of like an hour or two, an hour and a half or something like that. Um, but what I think I'm gonna try to do is I'm gonna make this a I'm trying to think through it. Sorry. I'm gonna make this a tribute episode as much as I can, right? I want to make this as um I want to make this an episode about John, right? I want to make this an episode about who he is as a person, um, or was as a person, as well as just kind of share my own memories and thoughts. And of course, if you're on here, you can join in and bring in your own things, and then we can all kind of make this a communal moment of just being able to just kind of recount all the amazing stories that we have of John. I'm going to try to bring in as many photos as I can. I have physical photos as well as some that I'm going to share from like Facebook and other things like that. Um, I just kind of really want to do that. I think it's a great way for the podcast in general to kind of move into a different space, um, and we'll probably do this at a regular basis. I'm trying to figure that out. Things are a little bit different, but I am going to go ahead and get us started um, with a really quick intro, right? And then I'll jump into the basis of everything, right? So 3, 2, 1. What's going on, everybody? I'm Dennison, and this is the Catchup. All right. Before we begin, I want to go ahead and talk about the three main things, right? That we do for the podcast, that you can do for the podcast to help us out. The first thing, and I'm going to probably butcher this because John was so good at this. Is to like and subscribe as well as just like and rate our podcast. That is our podcast on any of our platforms, right? Both YouTube, Facebook, of course, any of the other podcasting sites like Spotify and Apple Podcasts and any other place that you can find podcasts. So, like, rate, and subscribe on that. And please, let us know. We always love to hear from you guys, especially for this episode. I would love to hear from you guys. Um, just, share your stories, thoughts, anything like that. It's also a great way to make our podcast grow. And in some ways, it's a great way for people to be able to get into our older episodes and kind of check those out. Or even people who haven't, um, experienced our podcast, seen our podcast, they can go back into the archive and stuff like that. And I'm going to talk about some other stuff that I'm going to be doing a little bit later on in the episode. But you know, please like, rate, and subscribe. Um, it helps get grow our podcast and grow our community. Um, the second thing is, um, you know, You know what? I'm actually just gonna leave it at that. We're only gonna do one. Because I think right now we're in I'm in a transitioning period. The podcast is in a transitioning period, and I really want to keep it at that, right? So, um, share, of course, share the podcast, share this episode, especially, um, and we can kind of grow this a little bit together and figure out what we're gonna do with this in general. So, I'm gonna go ahead and jump into this. So one main reason, as you can see at the title, is that this is a tribute episode to John. Um, if for those of you who don't know, my best friend and my co-host, John P. Smith, um, unfortunately passed away over the Thanksgiving break. So our last episode of the podcast was our last episode. As the Catchup podcast with John and Dennison. Um, Not saying that the podcast is ending. It's just that is the last episode that we recorded together. I guess I should specify that more along the lines. But yeah, so um he unfortunately passed away. He had been battling melanoma for a while, um and things had been going really well. And it's just, sometimes these things kind of happen and they move quickly. And so a few months back we had found out that he had some melanoma that had gotten into his brain. We started treatments, and just unfortunately, it just didn't work out. It was very sudden. We didn't know. Um, it was, one of the best things, I guess, to think of it as is that he um, he passed away really quickly. He didn't have to suffer. But yeah, it was all very sudden. We didn't know. It's 1 minute I was talking to him, and then the next he's kind of gone. So um, it's been a little bit hard. So you know that is one reason why I will say I haven't posted, or we have it. The podcast hasn't posted, nor have I posted. I'm kind of now managing the whole deal. And so it's been a little bit hard in general. So I do apologize that we haven't really, or I haven't posted or anything like that. I've just been kind of dealing with a lot of it myself, and I've been trying to figure out um, next steps and stuff like that, as well as just trying to kind of get myself in a better state, in a better mind, in a better headspace, I should really say, so that way I could do this type of episode correct. um, because John deserves that, right? As well as you guys deserve that. So um, I wanted to be in a much better state. I'm not going to promise you that I'm not going to be that it's going to be perfect throughout this whole process, but I'm going to try to do the best as I can to try to honor John as much as I can. So that is the main thing about this episode and what we're going to be doing. I I guess one of the main things how I'm going to kind of start is just kind of talk about um how I met John, you know. I think it's a really cool and interesting story, kind of funny too. Um because a lot of people believe that, me and John had been best friends since, when we were kids or whatever like that. Um but we only met senior year of high school, right? And actually, funny enough, we went to the same high school, but we didn't know each other. We both went to Allen High School, which is a massive school. Um, we only had one high school in our city, so all the kids went there, and so it was just so big. Um, and so yeah, I know me and John always joked about, graduating. Our graduating class was something like 1,200 kids, and which is kind of massive and crazy. Um, and we always joked about not being able to see, um, essentially not being able to see, or not knowing like everybody who's in our class or whatever like that. So, um, case in point, John, right? Me and John had been going to the same school, at least the same high school, I should really say, for what, 3 years before then, right? And then we only met each other, not even in school, but we met each other in work, at work. Our both of our I think both of our first jobs, which was home goods. Um, and actually, before I continue, I want to kind of I want to first say, Aaron, thank you so much for being on the podcast. Thank you for being here with me. Um, I want to kind of also talk about what your post is. You said first off, thank you for doing, thank you for doing this for you, for John, and for everything slash everybody John Smith impacted. Secondly, I'm glad I got to meet you. Hate it was like this. Always knew we would get together somehow with John, uh, with John Boy, but never thought it would be like this. Ready to share whatever you are, whenever you are, man. Yeah, thank you, Aaron. No, yeah, thank you for coming on here. It was amazing being able to meet you, honestly. Um, John talked about you all the time. We always loved having you on the podcast. Um, Thank you, man. Thank you for just always being here for us. Um, thank you for also just being an amazing friend to John. Um, so and of course, Aaron, if you have any other stories, just plop them in there. I'm just going to be kind of rambling and stuff. But going back to the story, so yeah, we both met at Home Goods. Funny enough, I got my job at Home Goods because of another John, that went to my high school. He helped me. He knew, of course, he already worked there at the time, and so he worked with the manager, and kind of talked to them and kind of got me an interview, and then boom, I get in the job. Um, it was only like 2 more months later that he left and went to a different job. that John, and then I met, and then I got the opportunity to meet, uh, John Smith, my best friend. Um, it was a weird start, I'm not gonna lie. I've always been kind of a closed off person, but John just has, an amazing way he had amazing way to be able to kinda bring anybody out of their shell, um, as well as just make anybody feel special. I think that's the reason why he had, um at the funeral, there were so many amazing people there, that just, loved and adored John. Um, it's because it just showed just how amazing of a person he was, and that he kind of made everyone feel so special, you know? Um, sorry. He made everybody feel so special, um, and feel so loved. Even when you only interact with them a little bit, right? Everybody that I knew that met John was like, he's great, super genuine person, all that. So, um, but yeah, we met. It's funny. I always laugh because, or I always joke because the first time that he met me, I didn't actually even know his name at the time, too. I was in the back, I was unpacking furniture, and then John came in the back, opened up the back doors or whatever like that. We had these 2 big swinging black back doors, and he opened it up and he's like, "Dennison!" And and at that time, I was just super confused because I was like, "I don't know this person, but they know me." Um, and then we just struck up a conversation, and, um from there, it was really just became my best friend, and it felt like I knew him. I had known him my whole life, which was pretty amazing. Funny enough, too, he even it was probably maybe a few hours later after we had like had our initial like introduction conversation that we were already talking about like more deep stuff. He had already talked about um the school year had just kind of started, I think, at the time, and so he had started talking to me about him wanting to ask out, this girl that he had been friends with for ages and stuff like that. And he's like, I'm gonna ask her out and we're gonna go to homecoming and stuff like that. And I was like, man, I just met this guy, but it was such a surreal feeling, such an amazing feeling. Um just kind of, I don't know, just he like I said, he just had a way of just being able to make you feel loved as well as just make you feel as though, um, like you're already his best friend, right? Um, so yeah, uh, John kind of honestly, he brought me out of my shell. The Dennison that you know today and that you see here today is only or is in part due to John's influence in my life. And I'm sure there's plenty of other people here that also feel the same way, that because he just had that effect on people. Um uh sorry. But yeah, John just had such an amazing effect. He brought me out of my shell. He kind of helped me have an amazing senior year. I always look back at my senior year in high school very fondly, but only because of John being there. Um, I high school, I feel like high school's never been great for anybody, right? And some people a little bit better than others, but I feel, excuse me, I always feel that high school is one of those weird times where you're still trying to figure yourself out, or you feel like you felt yourself, you understand who you are, but at the same time, like you're on the you're on the cusp of understanding yourself even more or something like that. It's strange. So everybody's kind of in this weird awkward phase, and I feel that that creates a strange space, and sometimes it kind of gives you not great outcomes. So it's amazing that I can look fondly of my high school years. Really, I should say my senior high school year. so fondly because of John's influence in my life. Um, and then, it's history from there, right? So the other thing that I remember very vividly is, just how quickly we had a connection. We were able to just kind of we became Sean and Gus, which was both of our favorite TV shows at the time, which was Psych, or I should say, characters that came from a TV show called Psych. Um, we always joked that we were Sean and Gus. We had plenty of pictures and all sorts of other stuff like that. I think at one point we actually we entered in a contest to try to like make your best psych pose, or it was something like we could send in our psych photo um to the psych Facebook page at the time, and so we really had a great time at that. Um And yeah, I mean, it just kind of continued to blossom and grow from there. Even the process of starting this podcast came from us just having these huge, these super long catch up sessions. Um, whether it just be like we were in person, we were always talking and stuff like that. Um, to when John moved away for college, we would have these super long conversations and times that we were like, man, you know what? We should turn this into a podcast or some sort of thing like that. I probably never would have done that without John, but um, he just has that impression on him, on anybody, right? And so um he opened me up to wanting to do this, to really wanting to make this podcast kind of what it is. And I'm incredibly thankful for, the opportunity of being able to do this, as well as the opportunity of and the push that John did to essentially get me, or to really for us both to sorry, for us both to essentially get where we are now, and kind of get this podcast to the amazing point that it is. But yeah, we've always kept in touch. We've always, even when John moved away, it felt like we'd never moved away, really and truly. It felt like we were, I don't know, still John and Dennison, right? Still hanging out. We would go up to, he would either come up, or he'd either come down to Dallas, thinking about it in like terms of geographical locations. He would either come down to Dallas sometimes, and then I would go up to Kansas. Um, and it was just an amazing experience, um, in both ways. And our friendship just continued to grow and grow. And one thing that I have to really talk about too is just John's family in general. Uh, I when really started hanging out with John, it was his family that really got me. That kind of filled in those gaps of like, man, this guy's really awesome. But I was wondering, I was like, how you you always wonder like how did someone become the way that they are, and just his family really showed me just how the reason why he is so amazing. They're so amazing. His parents are amazing. Super super great people. I call them like my second parents because they are just so amazing and so full of love. And I have been um I have been just so lucky to have them in my life. Um, and so it just kind of shows just the amazing people that John had around him that helped raise him and help him become the person that he is. Um, so yeah, I feel like I'm rambling a little bit. I'm gonna get a little bit more structure here. my good friend Sierra, she actually made this for me, which is really really amazing. It's just a picture book or photo album, right? Yeah, it's a album of some of the photos that me and John have, or that we've taken over the years, or that have been taken of us over the years. Um, it holds a lot of sentimental value. Um, to me, I am incredibly grateful that she did that. Funny enough, it's also the same girl that John wanted to take out to homecoming or ask out to homecoming. Um, uh, so yeah, it was a super great gesture that she did. But I wanted to kind of go through some of the photos that we have here, and then I'm also going to jump onto the Facebook side because I know there's a lot of photos that we have over there, and the camera keeps jumping around. But we have a lot of photos over there of just kind of stuff like that, and I can kind of go through memories. And if you guys have any memories that you wanted to share or talk about, go ahead and do that. Um, and we can just kind of go from there, you know. Um, so the first thing that I want to talk about is this. This is a great photo. There's another one on the other side, but it's a little bit harder to do with the camera. um, but this was, what, a year or so after me and John met up, or after me and John became friends. Um, this was our good friend Sierra, who also created this amazing book. Um, her birthday party. I think it was like a surprise birthday party, if I remember correctly. And I remember um, it was raining for some strange reason. I remember that, and we drove up, and we just kind of went in there and we had a great time. It was truly amazing. Uh, and I know that she was super happy to see us there, and it was just fun, honestly. Uh, we also, thought we were like the coolest guys there. And I think we didn't plan on wearing the same red, but I mean, I guess it's slightly different reds, but it's pretty much the same. We didn't plan on that. We didn't plan this. We just did. It just kind of happened that way. Um, but this was a great time. Um, it's kind of crazy just to think about it and just look how young we were. Man, that's kind of crazy. Um, but yeah, we were super young then, but it was a great time. I remember this is um a Halloween costume that we had. If I'm not mistaken, this was when John was still here. He was still in Texas before he moved up to Kansas. And John and his parents, um, and thank you, Christina. Christina said you can really tell why John was so great just by meeting his parents. It is very true. They are amazing people, truly, truly, truly. But that picture was when we were dressing up for Halloween. We always did Halloween big, and John's parents did a super amazing job on Halloween. They always did it up big. And so we dressed up as Snoop Dogg and Slash. Slash is John's favorite um one of John's favorite musicians. And then I dressed up as Snoop Dogg. I can't remember why. I think it was because there was echoes, or maybe it did happen. I can't remember now. Of like Slash and Snoop Dogg collabing on like an album or a tour or something similar to that. Um, and so I dressed up as Snoop Dogg. Also, weirdly enough, everyone always says that I look like Snoop Dogg. I don't know why, or I sound like Snoop Dogg. I don't know why. Never really got that impression. Um, but it was kind of like a double joke kind of deal. And so I that was really fun. That was a really, really great night. Um, and of course, this is on this other side here. This is just a nice little snippet from our podcast. Um, this picture, so I'm going to kind of jump to. So, this picture right here is really interesting. So, um, me, or I should say, my sister found this agency, I guess, that did extras, like movie extras, right? They would allow you to, if you passed a certain vetting thing or whatever like that, you could become a movie extra for, various movies or TV shows or whatever like that. And then they would like call you and say like, hey, we've got a job or whatever like that. Essentially, you get in the system, and then eventually they'll call you up and stuff. And so I thought, well, hey, that sounds cool. And so um and so I signed up. Um and then I told John, and John was like, yeah, let's do it. And so he signed up, and then we so happened to get called to the same uh set or whatever like that, movie set, and then we became extras in the background, and we would walk around. It was fun. I think even our friend Devon also was on that same did that same thing. But it was pretty fun. It was fun. We got to essentially it was like some football movie or whatever like that. Sadly, it never got produced, or it never got released. I think they had like gotten halfway through or something like that and ran out of money. But it would have been cool because it was some sort of football movie. But it would have had, I always forget the actors' names. Um, and my fiance Christina always knows that I'm terrible at names in general. But it's the same actor who played Shaggy in the real life Scooby Doo. Um, he was doing a movie, and he was like the coach or whatever like that. So that was kind of interesting. Super fun. It got cold. And they wanted us to essentially just have like a t-shirt on or whatever like that. I had long sleeves. John had, I think, just a regular t-shirt, and it started getting cold. Um, because it's Texas, and the day can start off nice and warm, and then it slowly gets colder. And I think they had us there until like 10 or 11 or something like that. And so it was kind of cold, but and you can even see, I'm going to pull this picture back up. You can even see the sleep deprivation in our eyes. We were super tired. I mean, we had been there for a while, and weren't really getting paid that well. I think I mean, it was, good for at the time for, college kids or whatever like that, but it wasn't super great. But it was fun. It was fun. We were able to just kind of hang out. It really became a hangout session for us for the most part because we were in the same section, and we just kind of were walking around whenever they said action. We would just walk across the bleachers, and then they would cut, and then you would do it all over again. So that was really really cool, really really cool experience. Highly recommend. I think if you want to do something like that, it's kind of an interesting deal just to kind of see what it's like. um uh so I am going to read what Aaron said here. He just posted, which is amazing. Thank you, sir. uh so Aaron says, so John was my co-producer at KSN. He was already on the night shift when I joined the team, kind of like let's see, an experience. And sorry, terrible reading sometimes. But just was just was too welcoming, or just was so welcoming to his new experience of over the night work. Um, and then being the only two in the building, it opens up the opportunity to really get to know each other. Um, he sat right behind me, so we were always talking as we were working. Some of the funniest moments were when he would start eating. Dude, dude, this guy can always eat the craziest stuff at 1 a.m. at work. Let's see here. Sorry, my sometimes it doesn't show all the way. There we go. I'll put this up here. It was always it looks like it cut off. Sometimes the thing up here isn't super great, but as you can read there, um essentially Aaron had just an amazing time. Aaron, you are correct. John did an amazing job at just always finding a way to eat anytime that he's talking to anybody. It's so strange. I remember many calls and many times that John, me and John would be on the phone, and we even talked to many people actually talked about this um, during the funeral service. Um, that Yeah, I remember a lot of times I would be on the phone with John and, in the background, I hear someone say, like, "Can I take your order?" And John would be out there. He'd be getting, something from Wendy's or Chick-fil-A or something like that, which was always hilarious. I remember there was one time that I got John, because he would always have me on speaker in his truck, and he would usually have me up pretty loud, and so he would, um somebody came up and said, like, "Can I take your order?" Um, and, John put in his order, and then they always say, "Is there anything else that you like?" And then so I yelled out because I knew I was on speaker, on blast on speaker, and I yelled and I said, I was like, "Yeah, yeah, can you give me like a fry or something like that, or like a large fry?" And apparently I was loud enough that the person on the speaker said, like, "Wait, what?" And John immediately turned me down, and then, he just said, he's like, "Oh, it's nothing." And he just started busting out laughing, which was so funny. He was so mad, but it was so funny, and it was so great. So Aaron, thank you so much for sharing that story. Um, I know you guys worked at KSN. I know I remember him telling me how much you being on that night shift with him helped him out. Um, Not just for like workload, but also just keeping him sane. I remember how the night shift, in some ways, he would say it was kind of like a blessing and a curse, right? Um, he was able to do so much, and that was also another amazing thing. You could see, like, how God was moving through his life as well, um, because the experience that he gained from the night shift helped him so much when he eventually got a chance to move over to the day shift, and then eventually moved over to the, to Hunter Health, which is, the the place that he ended up working in. Um, but, thank you, Aaron. I remember, like I said, I remember just him talking about just how amazing you were and how amazing it was that you were there with him and got a chance to hang out with him and all sorts of other stuff like that. I think, if I'm not mistaken, he also met his good friend Kevin Ryder there as well. I got to meet him during the funeral. Um, Great guy, truly great guy. And Kevin, if you watch this, either if you're watching now or you watch it a little bit later, it was amazing to meet you, man. And I hope we can continue to keep in touch. Um, and you made an amazing speech at the funeral, and yeah, I think John really would have loved that. So Ron, thank you for jumping in here, and you just said thank you for thank you for keeping this going. You're welcome, Ron. I think um, I'm still trying to figure out exactly what I how I want to move on and move forward with this, but I do want to keep this podcast going. I do hope that you all are able to kind of bear with me in this transitioning period. But I do want to keep this going because I know how many lives that this podcast has touched, as well as how many, as well as, just how much John loved this podcast, and just being able to kind of interact with everybody and stuff like that. Um, It's kind of one thing that I remember, the first time I think it was the first or second time that I had gone up to Kansas and we had been doing our podcast. It was after we had really started our podcast and it kind of really started to grow. But it was so interesting because I went up to Kansas and I met so many people and they all, you know, they all got to meet me for the first time, but one of the kind of crazy things and kind of cool things was that they're like, "Oh man, I feel like I already know you." Because they would watch the podcast and watch or listen to the podcast. And so it was really a surreal feeling just to kind of be there and just to show just how many lives we were able to touch or even just how many people were tuning in. It's one of those things where you record and you do your stuff, but you don't really realize just how many people you are able to reach. Numbers don't truly do it justice. And so I want to thank you guys so much for um, being here, being here on the podcast, being able to just kind of, as well as just tuning in and listening, watching us. Thank you so much. It means a lot. It means a lot to me, and I know it meant a lot to John. Um, uh, Aaron says, I watched John laugh so hard while drinking water, he spilt it all over Kevin Ryder. Yeah, no. um, damn, that's a great story. Yeah, no, John, man, I remember he would get into these laughing fits sometimes, if he heard something really funny. Um, he has a signature laugh. Um, And yeah, if you can get him, he'll do all sorts of stuff. Um, man. Um, so I've got another picture here, which you may recognize this. This is our also our podcast logo, or at least what it's based off of. Um, and this is when we did our bro trip. I think it was what 2019, I believe. Yeah, 2019 bro trip, our first bro trip. Um, really the first road trip that we got a chance to do, when we were more like adults and we actually had money. Um, it was really awesome. We went to Seattle. If you go back, you'll probably on the podcast's page, you'll probably see a lot of posts that we were posting when we were in Seattle. We were trying to make it interactive. We were trying to add and kind of bring you guys with us at the time. But it was also an amazing time for us to just hang out, especially since it had been years since we kind of had been distant, or I shouldn't say distant, but physically distance, right? From being in two different cities and states. So it was just a cool and amazing experience. And being able to also experience something that we both never had experienced before was, I think, just like that cherry on top. And it made it really, really, really amazing. Um, Great trip. Really, really great trip. So many cool memories. I mean, we went to the Museum of Pop Culture, which was really cool. It had a little bit of everything for both of us. which was really nice. We went to Starbucks. We went I know that sounds weird, but I think if I'm not mistaken, Starbucks started in Seattle, so it was kind of cool because we got to see like the original Starbucks. So that was neat. And then we went to like this roastery or whatever like that. I don't know. It was some kind of like super Starbucks. Um, but that was really cool. Um, of course, we got to we had this cool like Airbnb-esque thing. It was from Booking, so it wasn't technically Airbnb, but it was like someone's apartment. So that was fun. We almost went to the club once, which was kind of funny. We were trying to figure out what we were doing one night, and we saw like a group of people like go, and there was like a line forming of people going to the club, and um and we were like, "Oh, should we go?" And so we were debating for like, I don't know, even it may have been like 30 minutes of like, should we go? Shouldn't we go? And stuff like that. Um, and so it was just really kind of an interesting experience there. Um, that was fun. We got to fight off homeless people. Not really fight off, but I don't know. We heard some interesting conversations. It was, yeah, just interesting. Uh, Another kind of really surreal experience there was it was June. It was in the middle of June, if I'm not mistaken, and we flew there, and it was, I think the high would get up to 60 when we were there. And then it would be, but most of the time it would be like 50s to 40s, which was kind of crazy for me, especially, coming from Texas and even for John. But coming from Texas where it gets hot in June, right? So we would come from Texas where it's like 80, 90 degrees and then go to Seattle and it's like in the 50s. And so I remember one thing that John didn't fully he wasn't fully prepared for those temperatures. And so there was a couple of times where he had his signature tank top kind of deal. Um and he'd be out there and it was cold and he was cold. But happily he had his jacket, so we still he was still good, and we had a lot of fun. um, but yeah, it was such a cool experience. We went to the museum of flight. We're both aviation people. We love just seeing planes. It was really really cool, just to kind of see that. And we took so many pictures, and we were looking at everything. We were nerding out. Um, it was also what else did we go and see? We went to see the Seattle Underground. See, I'm actually giving everyone on this podcast some amazing tips when you go to Seattle. But there's a Seattle Underground, which is like the city of Seattle, if I'm not mistaken, essentially had like one point where it like burned down or something like that. Or it was like a something. And so they kind of like built on top of the city. And so there's still like old portions of the city that you can go down to and kind of see, and it was really really interesting and really neat. So that was a cool thing. We went to Amazon's, or we got to look at Amazon's headquarters, and then we went to like one of the Amazon Go stores, which is a really cool and interesting experience. So if you ever get a chance to, I would highly recommend doing that. Um but yeah, it was such a cool experience. There was still so much for us to see and so much that we wanted to see, but it was a really great time and a really amazing bonding time. And um, we were just having a blast, We so much of a blast that we had started to try to plan whatever our next road trip would be. Um, so yeah, I mean, we just kind of kept going from there. Let's see, let's do another walk down memory lane here. So we've got two spots here. This one right here, I'm trying to make sure I get this right. There we go. This one right here was cool because this was an Alter Bridge concert. Um, this one, it was a really, really good concert. It was super hot. Um, and the really strange thing, or the really Texas thing, was we went in there. It was when we first started, it was super sunny. It was hot. It was like in the 90s or 80s or something like that. Great show, amazing show. We were rocking out. It was great. And then we came out, and there was a tornado warning. Not a watch, a warning. Um, and so yeah, there was, and it started to get a little bit colder, and it started to rain. It was kind of crazy. And so we're like, all right, well, let's try to get home. We don't want to be out here in the storm. And this was a true God moment, honestly. Um, we were driving back, and I missed my turn. Um, and so it just rerouted us, but we went a little bit longer of a way. And come to find out, like a mini kind of tornado rolled through essentially the path that we would have been driving, at the essentially at the time in which we would have been there if I hadn't missed my turn. So, um, first of all, uh, to my fiance, that is why sometimes it's a good thing to miss your turn. But also, um, it was amazing. It was kind of like a God moment, honestly. We missed the turn. I blame the GPS, but anyway, we missed the turn. But if we wouldn't have, we probably would have been caught up in like that mini tornado that went through. And honestly, one of the things that we saw was it was like a Kia Soul, but it was like turned around on the highway, um, which was kind of crazy. So it was like facing the other way, and there was like a whole bunch of debris and all sorts of other stuff like that. And so it's like if we just would have been just a few minutes earlier, we would have been hit by that. So I am incredibly, you know, we're blessed and incredibly thankful that, God kind of protected us and watched over us on that time. Um, let's see. So another trip down memory lane. This one right here was just cool hangout time. I came up for I think it was the weekend. But yeah, I came up for the weekend. We just hung out. I drove up. I had gotten, funny enough, I remember I had just gotten my nah, not just gotten, it's been a few months, but I had gotten a new car, and so I drove up because I wanted to kind of show him, and as well as just kind of like drive up and see him. And so it was really cool. He took me to this place called Chicken and Pickle. We got to see like kind of like a live show there, which was really neat. Um, and just another amazing hangout bro time. I mean, um, that's one thing that I really cherished about our friendship is that, one, of course, we would always check in on each other and always talk to each other about like literally everything, but also we would always go out of our way to see each other, right? We're gonna hang out eventually, regardless of whatever. Um, Either John would come down to Texas, um, or I would drive up to Kansas. But we always made time to see each other in person and just kind of hang out and really just um, talk about what was going on, man. And just, I don't know, just be brothers. Um, Honestly, that is the truth. Um, Me and um, sorry, um, we are always brothers. Truly, we became brothers in every sense of the word, just because of how strong and amazing our friendship was. Um, Aaron comments on here, and he said, he took me to an Alter Bridge concert too. Um, They weren't the opener, and we didn't even stay for the headliner, but John was so excited to see them. He disappeared for me for like 15 minutes. He came back after buying a shirt and he switched shirts right then and there. That sounds like John. Yeah, no, he was a big fan of Alter Bridge, like a huge fan of Alter Bridge. Um, and so yeah, I remember, yeah, he would find any opportunity to go see them. And we went to many shows together. Aaron got a chance, as you um here got you got a chance to kind of see John kind of geek out and like be in his element with Alter Bridge. They are a great band. They are. Um, and yeah, John loved that band. Um, Man, truly great times. Um, all right. Let's keep on moving and moving and moving and moving. I'm gonna let's see here. This is Homecoming. This is such a great photo here. One, we're super young and we both look super snazzy. I also had a fedora because, that's what you did back in the day to look cool. Um, but at the same time, I also kind of knew that I didn't want to be that I wasn't that it wasn't cool at the same time. I don't know. It was weird. Like I brought it and then didn't use it a lot of times. I think I was a little bit embarrassed. But yeah, we went to homecoming together. Uh, that was like my first homecoming too, which was so great. Um, Another reason why John is so cool and so amazing is that again, like I said, he kind of brought me out of my shell. I never had any intentions of going to homecoming, but John was like, "No, man, you got to go. We got to come, or you got to come," and stuff like that. Again, only knew him at that point. By that point, it probably maybe been a month or whatever like that. He's like, "No, man, we're hanging out. We're bros. We're gonna do this. We're gonna go to homecoming." And I was like, "Oh, I don't have a date or anything like that." He's like, "It doesn't matter. We're a whole bunch of us are all going out to do homecoming. We're gonna do it." And so that's what we did, right? We got all nice and snazzy and all nice and dressed up. Of course, I'm gonna get this a little bit closer here, but yeah, that's of course. Let me see if I can find my finger. There we go. John, of course, there. This is our good friend Sierra here. And this is me, looking all nice and awkward. Um, but yeah, that was a super fun time. Um, and then John's mom uh, posted here and she said, "You are the best friend ever. God gave you each other, and you all made me laugh so much when I heard you do the podcast behind the scenes. Love you, son. Thank you, mom. Yeah, no, it's honestly, yeah, I believe wholeheartedly that um, God really did, you know, put us, put each of us in our lives for a purpose. And it's just to form that amazing bond. Um, so I'm blessed. I'm blessed to have had the time with him that I did. Um, yeah. Um, let's see here. Another trip down memory lane. Uh, what do we got here? Oh yeah. So this was 4th of July. If you ever go to Allen, Texas, every 4th of July around that time, it's of course not on 4th of July because no one ever does celebrates 4th of July, on the date. Or no city does, I should say. But they had, and my camera loves to zoom in and out on my face. It's great. It's trying to do it for dramatic effect. But the that was for was it was like Alan. all American 4th of July, whatever. Uh, great time, great time with friends and family and stuff like that. Another tradition that John got me doing. I didn't even know that it was a thing, but he's like, "Yeah, man, we do it all the time." And so yeah, we would go every year, and um, even we even went. I think actually that particular photo um was when we John was already in Kansas, but we made time to for him to come down at that time, and then both went to we both went to that, and it was super fun, like always. Um this other photo here is when John was moving. This was when he was moving to Wichita, to Kansas, and all of these amazing people came to help John move, um, and it was really great. There is friend of the show, not John there, friend of the show, Brooke, and of course Sierra is there, and there's Clayton. Um, but it was really amazing just to see all those people came to help. Um, John move, pack up, and it was also a great time to just kind of say like goodbye and kind of keep in touch and stuff like that. So that was really, really, really amazing time then. I'm gonna go through a few more of these and then we'll go ahead and wrap up. It is getting a little late. Um, let's see, where's another good one here that I can find? Oh, this is a good one. This is when we thought we were so cool. And we were in my old Elantra, which we called the Blackberry. Of course, from Psych, a good Psych reference. But yeah, it was so cool. I remember I thought I was so cool when I had that car. Um, it had I always loved to kind of like customize my cars and make it my own, right? And so at the time, when you're young, you do whatever you can, right? You spend every little dollar that you get to do whatever you can. And so I did a lot to that car. I really did. But I remember at that time I had gotten these really cool seat covers, or at least I thought it was really cool. These really, really cool seat covers on. And then I had like floor mats, cool floor mats too. I did it out. I did red and black theme to make it look all cool and nice. Um, and I even had like a red and black steering wheel cover, which was so neat. Um, but yeah, he took that one. And yeah, we were just driving around. We would always just ride around, and it was a good time. That was that was way back probably when I was still in high school, I think at that time. Um And then this is another cool photo because I think this was a graduation photo. Yeah, this was like right after we graduated. It was like a little graduation party that we all did. Um, and so it was cool. We had it in the park. Um, and we were just hanging out. We were just all hanging out and having a good time. Oh, this is a great one here. So this is the photo that I was talking about earlier, with from the that we did kind of trying to emulate Sean and Gus from Psych. This is a great photo. This is one that I remember very fondly. I remember packing for this to make sure that I could get like just the right amount of stuff. Um, yeah, that was a good memory there. I think we also did that too for maybe Halloween too, to dress up as like Sean and Gus. Um, yeah. So I think that's the main ones that I really want to kind of focus on, those pictures. And so I really want to kind of now bring it back and one, thank you all for jumping in, all of you that were able to jump in on this live stream. Of course, if you're watching, thank you so much for being able to watch. Um, and thank you for just being able to participate in this kind of tribute episode. I kind of want to do more of these um, throughout maybe the year or something similar to that, or what have you. Maybe it's a anniversary thing or something like that. Um, this means, so much to me, and I know that John would love this as well. Thank you again for sharing your stories, sharing your time. Thank you for being here on the podcast, not just for this one, but for all of the ones that we've had. Um, and just being here, you guys have been so amazing, and it really feels like a family, which is kind of one of the main things that we wanted to do when we started this podcast, right? Of course, it was about us catching up, and then eventually it started to kind of mold more into like a tech thing, but we were still catching up at the same time and catching up with you guys. So it was this podcast has been so amazing. For I still don't know exactly what I'm doing with it. I am going to continue the podcast, so don't worry about that. It just things may be a little bit slower than they were before, as until I kind of get my groove and get into a better state. Um, it's hard um, to do this without John, so please show me some grace um, as I kind of get through this transitioning period. Um, I am trying to. I'm starting to what I what I want to do and what I'm going to do is I want to maybe on a weekly basis. I don't know yet. It just depends on how my schedule works. But I want to essentially repost some of um, our older episodes, which of course you can see on any of the podcasting platforms. But I want to post it on our Facebook page and on our I want to post it on our Facebook page and on our gosh darn, sorry, Facebook page and our YouTube channel. So that way you'll be able to go back and listen to those. Of course, they'll be in video form, but they'll be something that you can listen to as well. So um, please, if you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We do have that one. Um, I already have a lot of our older videos, or already have a decent amount of our older episodes turned into videos, turned into videos on YouTube. And so I'm just going to continue that trend. And then I'm going to upload some of those same videos onto Facebook. So that way you have a more cohesive archive of kind of everything that we've done so far. And of course, everything that we will continue to have as time goes on. Um, yeah. Thank you again so much for being here and being with us, or I should really say, being tuning into this podcast. And just to kind of talk, uh, to John really quickly. Um, you know, love you, bro, and thank you for uh, being such an amazing friend. Thank you for really kind of breaking me out of my shell. Thank you for helping me be the person that I am today, and thank you for just being who you are, man. You know, um, and I love you, bro. Uh, you are my brother, and I'll catch up with you soon. Well, I shouldn't say soon. Um, I'll catch up with you later, um, and it'll be great. You know, I know you're in a way better place. So, and for you guys, um, you know, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch up with you guys a little bit later. Bye.